Alright, welcome to CSL, start of the spring semester. I am Zingle. I will be casting today with Gorgon the Wonder Cow.
Hey guys, it's a pleasure to be here again for the second half of our season. As we said, the spring semester. Just want to get some spring cleaning sort of out of the way here and thank once again Band Gaming for being the social app of CSL with features like creating groups, boards, calendar functions, polls, chat, and basically everything else that you could possibly want. Band Gaming won't make you friends, but it'll help you keep them. And of course, we want to thank Twitch for throwing us up here and helping to sponsor us, treating us really well, along with all of the streamers that Twitch supports. It is the largest streaming platform in gaming for a reason. And of course, Asus has joined the CSL family for the 2016-2017 season. Now that we've gotten our gratitude out of the way, let's take a look at RIT versus Rutgers Grease Trucks. Rutgers versus RIT. These are two of the best teams from the first half of our season. I'm really looking forward to seeing them play. How about you, Zingle?
Oh yeah, they scored a solid 7-0 season for the first semester and a 6-1 for this other team for the first semester. So these teams are nothing to laugh at.
Yeah.
Definitely will be a good game.
Absolutely. This even if this goes 2-0 somehow, which I wouldn't necessarily expect it to, it should be quite a show. The other thing about this is we haven't necessarily seen these teams play against equivalently skilled teams a lot yet because of the way that the grouping works in the first half of the season. Both of them kind of rolled over their competition, and this could be really the first window into what playoff season might look like for both of these teams.
Right. It's fully possible that one team had a just objectively easier first season bracket, and this'll let us know who's the real top dog.
Yeah, so as we get into it, we're already getting rid of Slardar and Underlord. Underlord, an interesting band, not widely played in competitive level, but when he is played, he has a pretty big impact, and I think a lot of teams are not yet used to the idea of playing against him. And then Coin of Pain and Drow being brought out here, two very in-meta picks. So what do you think of the bands? What do you think of the Earth Spirit pick?
I like the bands. I think RIT is greatly valuing the off-lane meta, because this banning of Slardar and Underlord, both of them are similar type of heroes, tempo controllers, tanky frontline initiators. Underlord doesn't really do the initiation role as much, but it's very similar to Omni Knight in that sense with an added benefit of the stun. I like the idea to get rid of those frontliners.
Yeah, and of course, since this will be the first CSL match that we broadcast on 7.xx, so since Dota 3 came out, basically, we are going to be looking at some serious changes in meta, that stark differences between the last time we watched CSL and this time. I just want to remind all of our viewers that these are not professional level players. These are high skill college players who don't have all the time in the world to practice together. They are students. They have student things to do. Some of them are also athletes or also academic. They have extracurricular obligations as well. So when we're watching these players, really adjusting to major patches like this is one of the most exciting things to look out for. And I was going to say, Zingle, last year your team did very, very well. For those of you, the viewers who don't know, you played for the University of Michigan last year. You guys got to the finals of the entire season. I almost said series. And you guys had to do not quite as big of an adjustment as to 7.00, but there were a couple of patches in your way, including right there during the finals, basically. So what's that mentality like? How does that impact the way you play?
You try not to let it affect you too much because you know the other team is equally, thrown off. It's not like you're the only one who has to deal with change. So when you're walking around and the patch drops a few hours before your match or a few weeks before your match or something, you realize that you have the same disadvantage or advantage as the other team. So you just kind of shake it off, go with what you're used to, and try to adapt slowly and surely.
Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look up the play activity of every one of these players, but I did happen to find Ritz from RIT. And unless he's been playing on Smurf accounts, his this account that he's playing on now hasn't seen a game for 23 days.
Wow.
So some of these players might be more familiar with this patch than others. Obviously, we're talking talent trees, we're talking complete map rework. We are talking rune changes all the way across the board, bounty changes, experience changes from kills. Did I miss anything? Is that new heroes into captain's mode, changes to the way, obviously the addition of shrines. Basically, the whole game is different. So if these teams have not had a lot of chance to play so far, it could be very one-sided.
Yeah, well, there's not really, if they haven't played in a while and they don't really know what to expect, I assume it's really just going to be a random toss-up to see where this game goes. And the first game is going to be kind of a pace setter for the entire series, I think. Trying to start the game strong with what they're comfortable with, see how it goes, and see what's the same, what's different.
Yeah, so Abaddon is an interesting pick here. So we're actually kind of seeing from RIT heroes that were popular before 7.XX came out. Luna, very, very popular, a dominating figure in the Boston Major as well as in pubs through that period. Has fallen off a little bit, but not totally since then. Abaddon is, I think, the most successful pub hero in Dota right now. He's an absolute top tier pick, but partially because he allows your team to screw up more, right? One of the things that he provides is a massive amount of heal. He can also purge off stuns with the Aphotic Shield, allowing your teammates to kind of step out of line or not communicate as well as they otherwise might need to, and still not be heavily punished for it. So RIT may be planning to play a little tighter, and Rutgers may be planning to give themselves the breadth of space that they might need.
Right, this Rutgers draft with Juggernaut just being picked up as well, it's a very forgiving draft. You have the Venge save, you have the Abaddon heals save, and ultimate, you have the Jug healing ward and spin. All of these heroes are very defensive in nature, but they still, all three offer extremely good, push strat and fighting lineup. So this is a very well-rounded draft so far.
Yeah, I also like that. The Vengeful Spirit pickup here, it preempted the Luna, but it does kind of stop the Luna Vengeful Spirit aura stacking. And of course, they did ban the Shadow Demon as well. So Luna is a hero who traditionally needs a lot of help in lane because she's squishy. She doesn't have a very high effective hit point pool. And she can be pressured really, really effectively, especially by a dual offlane, which is more viable since the 7.XX patch change. That said, there are still a handful of heroes that you could pair with her. Do you see anything that jumps out at you? Or is this just sort of like a think about Omni Knight, think about maybe Necrophos sort of game?
Well, both of those heroes are good in the sense that they do kind of add a defensive nature to that, but the classic combos are already banned out. The Rutgers did not let either of the typical heroes through. Ogre Magi amping up the attack speed on Luna lets you farm and fight faster. The Shadow Demon, defensive and offensive combo. And it looks like with an Axe pick, they're going to just try to be aggressive rather than defensive with this laning. It wouldn't surprise me entirely to see an aggressive lane come out of them. However, since Luna is a little bit squishy in lane, having an Axe just kind of set a tempo control and let Luna farm up and be safe is the most likely option at this point.
Yeah, so the Earth Spirit's an interesting pick for that goal because, of course, he is a very heavy roam support. You would expect him to spend a fair amount of time mid, maybe a little bit of time trying to contest the Axis jungle. The Dragon Knight is going to come out here. That's going to give a lot of push out of what I assume will be the mid lane, though I have seen off-lane Dragon Knight before. I assume that's the mid lane. That's one of the best heroes for Luna to go up against in terms of like her win differential. I know Dragon Knight's definitely in the top maybe 7 or 8 heroes that she likes to play against.
5 seconds remaining.
Oh yeah, no, this is definitely a push lineup coming out of Rutgers with a mid Dragon Knight, but
Reserve time.
I don't know, they're like I was saying earlier, with the 3 defensive kind of heroes from Juggernaut, Abaddon, and Venge offering saves and heals, with Dragon Knight being also inherently super tanky, they're going to have a lot of trouble bringing down these heroes on the Rutgers side. Especially if they just group up and push before Luna hits that core timing, that crucial, late game 6-slot steamroll.
Yeah, Luna is going to presumably hit a 1.5 item moment where they start to push down towers from there, and then you're right. She just kind of jumps from there to, if the game's going well, you're steamrolling towers, but if not, you have to basically wait until you get that full 6 slot. Glaives also, their bouncing attacks and not cleave, so Dragon Knight, a very high armor hero, will do much better against the glaives than he would against, say, an anti-mage with a Battle Fury or something, because that cleave does cut through armor,
right.
But Luna does not. Axe, however, a decent pickup into Juggernaut, a decent enough pickup into Dragon Knight, though not nearly as good. One of the problems with the heavy push coming out of RIT, though, is that Luna is a pretty solid counter pusher, just once again because of those glaives, and now you've got Ember Spirit as well.
Right. The issue with the Luna counter push, though, it is very good at pushing out waves, but if you're sitting at a tower trying to stop them from pushing the tower, and they've already got the creep waves equilibrium
10
at the tower
seconds,
area,
9
it's very
seconds
tough for
remaining.
Luna to walk up and hit the creeps without being in like the kill zone of
5
Venge swap
seconds
or
remaining.
Jug or Dragon Knight with a blink. So it does push out waves well, but I'm not sure if it defends quite as well.
Reserve time.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? Because one of the ways that you can offset a push lineup is not letting their creep equilibrium get to where they want unless they all group up.
Exactly.
If you're forcing a push lineup to have 5 people present for the push, then they're really losing a lot of the value that comes
10
with
seconds
all those
remaining.
pushing skills.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you have an Ember Spirit
5
throwing out
seconds remaining.
Sleight of Fist once they start to approach the tower, and you do have to worry about a potential axe
Dire
initiation,
team
right?
back.
A blink in Berserker's Call can really put the kibosh, as Toffees would say, onto a push very quickly. And Luna can, in the amount of time of a Berserker's Call, Luna can basically clean up every creep in the area inadvertently while attacking heroes. So you do have to
10
be very
seconds remaining.
conscientious of the way that those pushes can be stymied.
Right.
5
But at the
seconds
same time,
remaining.
though, with the Axe Call blinking in, you do have the Venge to kind of save the hero that gets initiated on. But one other thing you said with the Ember Spirit
Dire
sleight of
team
fisting
pick.
down the waves, I don't think that's a thing that happens much anymore with the new Ember
Yeah,
Spirit
it's
build.
true.
With the
Yeah,
new Ember
it
Spirit build?
is- no, you're right. Is what I mean.
Okay.
We will probably be seeing a high magic damage build.
It's almost
So
an-
if
Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's almost a
10
certainty.
seconds
I was going to say,
remaining.
but if you get to the mid game, you do start to see enough physical damage to start to
5
chew down
seconds
Oh, for
remaining.
sure.
with- between Luna and Ember Spirit with the Lunar Blessing and the Glaives and the Sleight of
10
Fist.
seconds
So if
remaining.
we're not seeing Juggernaut, Dragon Knight, Vengeful Spirit knock down towers before
5
25,
seconds
20 minutes, which is hopefully we're already looking at tier 2 starting to drop at that time for them. But if
Radiant
not,
team
then
pick.
Ember Spirit should be able to counter push pretty effectively at that point.
That sounds about right to me. I really like this last pick of the Dazzle here.
Mm-hmm.
The what's it called? The Weave, AoE minus armor and plus armor really stops most of
10
what
seconds remaining.
Rutgers is right now throwing in at them, with Dragon Knight having high armor, Juggernaut doing all
5
physical,
seconds remaining.
Venge doing minus armor and physical, and Weaver now doing minus armor and physical. It's a really good response.
All right. Yeah, Weaver, one of the biggest swings this week in terms of win rate, has really seen an uptick. Weaver also has really great early game negative armor. This is an attribute that I think a lot of folks really underestimate for Weaver. For push lineups, Weaver is, whoa, okay. All right, that update really screwed with my my overlay, but it seems to be fixed now. All right, back to professional.
Prepare
So,
for
so the
battle.
Weaver is able to cut creeps without putting himself in danger with the swarm, but he's also able to force heroes back and stop blinks. Right, so that one skill gives so much utility in a push lineup.
Right.
I like this TP out coming from the Earth Spirit before the pause even lands.
Yeah,
We've
it's
got a ward.
very quick play. Very. I think they want to scout out to see if Rutgers is going to be going an aggressive lane or not. This gives them a little bit of early knowledge, so if they see any early invasion of the jungle, they'll be able to swap it up or avoid it or react accordingly.
For those of you who are just joining us, this is our first game of the spring season here at CSL. We do want to go ahead and make sure that everybody's coming in aware that both of these teams are top of their leagues for the previous season, the fall season, and we are expecting a really solid game coming out. Are any players here, and once again, I'm going to rely a little bit on your player knowledge because you did spend a season going up against a lot of these teams. Any of these players stand out to you? Any of these guys that when you went up against, you tried to shut down, or that you were maybe afraid of them getting out of control?
Honestly, I recognize most of these names, but I have forgotten most of most of what was going through my mind back then. I was too focused on, okay, let's go on to the next game, let's go on to this game, what do I do next, and just kind of tossing out any memories of old teams. Nothing against these guys, I'm sure they all played extremely well, if we even played up against them, but nothing in particular comes to mind for any of these individuals.
So talk to me a little bit about this Ember Spirit magic damage build that we've been seeing a lot of. In this game, do you think it's still the right call, even though it's obviously really effective when you get it off the ground? But as you had mentioned, it does stop a little bit of your push potential through the mid game, and you're looking at a lot of counter push, or a lot of push potential coming out of the Radiant side. Should Ember be going for the magic build?
I think it is for sure, without a doubt, the better build right now in almost every single situation. It is just extremely strong. It's very good at almost all phases into the game. It scales well, and it's an all-around better build in my opinion.
Just regardless of situation,
Yeah.
it itself just provides too much damage.
Yeah, I can
to
explain too
really
if you
let
want
go.
me to.
Yeah, well, please.
In the past, you'd have an Ember Spirit, and you'd have to go Battle Fury, Boots of Travel, and something else before you're even remotely useful to your team. This was a huge timing window, kind of reminiscent of a Morphling player, where you'd have to just be making space for everybody, and it's kind of useless. This Ember Spirit, the second you get 6, the second you get a Veil, the second you get 10 for the extra 15% damage amp, you are just a steamrolling monster who wants to fight, and you still can farm just fine because of your insane amount of AoE magic damage.
Yeah, absolutely. It will scale a little bit more slowly into the very late game, but really we're probably not looking at a very late game either way. And so in that way, I do agree with you fully that if your Ember Spirit is planning for the extreme late game in this case, you're probably going to be playing against Megas before he gets there anyway.
Right.
Do want to point out that there was a nice counter ward coming out here from the Radiant side, knocking down a ward very early in the lane and putting this Ember at a pretty big disadvantage.
The D ward coming out of the Earth
What a
Spirit gets
play.
instantly cut down by the mid Dragon Knight.
Yeah, nice use of the Quelling Blade there just to mitigate that damage. And now Earth Spirit's just going to have to walk away. Not only that, but he's got to be aware now that he's not going to be able to get a successful gank onto this Dragon Knight.
Ours.
So, how do you feel about these lanes? The Axe just completely abandoning bottom, opting for a jungle pattern like you used to do in 6.87, and them going aggro against the Luna Weaver.
I think,
Dazzle.
honestly, Abaddon should take bottom for experience. Weaver does, for the early game, in my opinion, I think Weaver does much more with experience than people typically give him credit for. I think that people obsess about getting gold up on him so that you get one survivability item and also a damage item. But if you do a pretty heavy reliance on Swarm build, you're able to get so much negative armor that you don't need the Desolator early on. But if you're not able to level that up because you have somebody leeching experience in your lane, it becomes much harder to kill as a Weaver, and you do become much more gold dependent through the very early stages of the laning phase.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that this is just going to bring the push so much faster from the Radiant side. This Juggernaut is absolutely killing it down here in this lane.
I like the control of the rune from Abaddon in the top lane. They're just not letting Weaver or the Dazzle and Luna have their way with this. They're just constantly poking and prodding at them, forcing the Earth Spirit not to just totally abandon the lane.
That's an absolute must in terms of if you're going to dual lane this with the Weaver into the Luna, you have to be controlling this rune to offset a little bit of that advantage and disadvantage into your favor. Well, Weaver is chewing through his regen very, very quickly. I'm interested to see if Dazzle is going to have a smoke or have a dust brought out here pretty soon, and if they think with the Earth Spirit they might be able to grab a kill. With the Abaddon, it could be difficult, but
Kill attempt on
Weaver
bottom.
is very squishy.
Kill attempt on bottom. They rolled in and Jug just spinned it off, and then Venge missed a stun onto the Earth Spirit, so just stunned a creep.
Oh, that's not a good position to find yourself in game one. Hopefully he can shake that off and it doesn't impact the rest of his play.
And
in mid
and top, there's action everywhere.
Yeah. Alright, so nothing comes out of it mid. Top is just going to be a super tango away from restoration on that Luna. And now we're going to see another move in here, down bottom. As we get some right clicks, it will not be there with this stone push. And Storm Soldat not forced to use the stun, still sitting on full mana, but there's a big stack here that this axe can really easily steal.
Yeah, that's 2.5 stack or 2 stack there. But both of these carries are just being pressured in their lanes, harassed down under tower, kill potential on both of them just being a constant threat. And they can't play as greedily or as safely as they would normally like.
Yeah, but that's not as big of a deal for the Juggernaut, who got free farm through the first 3 waves, right? He's still sitting on 17 last hits. So he's got 4 more than the Luna. I think the Juggernaut is fairly happy. He also requires far fewer items to get going into that push than the Luna does, right? Luna needs some survivability and some damage before she feels really safe going out without her Dazzle.
Yeah, Yeah, despite all the kill potential on the lanes, though, it's been quite passive. All 3 lanes, you know, they've been harassing, poking, prodding back and forth, but no kills have come out. 4 minutes in, nobody's really gone back to base and healing up. Everyone's just kind of hunkered down, bunch of regen, bunch of wards up, kinda. Actually, the wards aren't that good, but
Yeah, well, there was a lot of counter
warding going on, yeah.
Speaking of wards, we should be seeing the next generation coming out here, and that should cue us into what these teams' priorities are. If we see very aggressive wards coming out of Radiant, it means that they're going to group up and push probably as soon as this Juggernaut hits 6, and try to open up space for the Dragon Knight to push down mid. If we don't see very aggressive wards, then they might be waiting for Juggernaut to get level 2 healing ward, as well as a pretty solid spin and Omni Slash.
Yeah, if you also look at it, this Axe abandoning his lane at the start to go to the jungle, yes, it did give Jug free farm, but he will actually hit 6 before Juggernaut does. He is closer. He is level 5, and Jug is currently only level 4.5.
Yeah, the question is, will he be able to do as much with it as the Juggernaut? The negative armor coming here out of Venge. Axe has got to be very careful. He's going to go down, and that's going to be level 6.
Well, there's the first blood that we were talking about, 5 minutes in, on the Axe greedily stealing the enemy's jungle camp. He does get money out of it, but that's a big kill to feed away, especially since he was so high level, too. That's a lot of XP.
Yeah, not only is it, as you mentioned, a lot of XP, but he also had a fair amount of unreliable gold on him. So that's a net worth swing of almost 700.
Meanwhile,
and the Ember goes down as well.
Yeah, Earth Spirit rolls in, misses his roll, and Venge was also headed in the same direction. So there's a little brawl going on, and both supports get there, but the Venge just offers more to the fight. With a
So if Axe doesn't die bottom here, then that kill mid doesn't happen either, because Venge was only able to peel away because she knew that the Axe wasn't going to come and kill her Juggernaut. Right?
Exactly.
The little domino effect of that very aggressive decision from Eradicate showing itself here, and he is going to let Juggernaut get more free farm. Juggernaut is sitting above the Ember Sphere and above the Luna by a decent margin in terms of last hits. Dragon Knight, however, is on top of the board.
So if you compare the farm of all these heroes in the game, it's actually very even. The mid lane is not a stomp one way or another, as you would kind of expect. The Ember Spirit having all that magic damage gets kind of counteracted by the regen from the Dragon's Blood rather than the armor, and just having a bottle. And then bottom lane, you know, any of the harassment on Jug kind of gets counteracted by a healing ward, and any of the harassment on Axe and Earth Spirit just gets countered by, you know, them dying and going back to the fountain, or using that shrine, which was added into the game in the last patch.
This max breathe fire build strips away a lot of Ember Spirit's damage potential with Flame Guard, right? Flame Guard disappears after it absorbs a certain amount of magic, so this breathe fire max build is going to help him strip that Flame Guard off, and suddenly it becomes a lot harder to CS, because you don't have that magic damage to CS, and of course you do also have negative damage on your attack once you get hit by breathe fire. So a really good decision from the Dragon Knight, helping him win his lane. I don't want to say handily, but by a pretty decent margin, right? He's about 700 ahead of the Ember Spirit at this point.
Smoke tank coming in top.
All right, and they are going to rotate in. There's the stun coming out, the negative armor coming out as well. The Photic Shield has already been used, so she can dive the tower she wants to. The bugs will not hit anything, and now the time is turned. Abaddon is going to go down, and the Weaver is going to get very low as well. One more stun goes out. The Luna will be going down, and now Storm Soldat has no mana left. Will be here for the damage. A couple of right clicks. Is this too greedy? There's a Grave and a heal available in 6 seconds. She will not be escaping as Vengeance turns around with the stun, but hits a creep again! Wow, for the second time this game, Storm Soldat is crying bloody murder on her own keys.
Gets saved by the Abaddon.
Does get in, yeah. They won't be able to get that kill just narrowly. No, the haste root on the Dragon Knight. He's going to dive for this.
He's going.
He's got it. Breathe fire there. That's one kill. Now he's going to go deep in.
He doesn't notice the tree's cut on the right side. Oh, now he does? Oh, but he's not going to go for it.
Weaver's back as
Meanwhile, a kill bottom. Solo kill on Jug. I had to miss that because there's a bunch of action top. Looks like Jug just.
You know what? There's still action top because the Dragon Knight is up here and the Luna is going to be forced back. And this is an easy push now coming out for Radiant as well. That was clumsy, but at the end of the day, it was everything they needed it to be.
Yeah, clumsy, but they salvaged it nicely.
Yeah, exactly. And the rotation from Jason Pan here was absolutely perfect. With the haste rune, that was a little fortuitous.
And look at this, Luna is still only level 5, and if you compare that with the Jug, who just got a solo kill as well and has been left alone, he's level 8. There is just a huge difference in XP earned from these carries. And I
This
think
is the real... Go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say, I think that's a very bad sign for the Luna. So what team is that? That would be they're not tagged up for some reason. That would be Rutgers.
Yeah, Dire is RIT and Radiant is RIT.
Dire is RIT. Then it looks very bad for RIT, as their kind of key strategy is to win the early game and then snowball with their mid and late game.
Yeah, I will also point out that this really comes down to a draft decision and the early warding decision, right? The Earth Spirit does not provide a lot as a stationary support. I said it during the draft as well, right? He's very reliant on moving, getting kills, getting assists, or at least forcing people out of lane. He wasn't really able to do that because of the nice counter ward that came out from our Rutgers University team in the mid lane. So he wasn't able to go mid, help get kills. That means the Dragon Knight gets out of control. Now Earth Spirit's soaking up a lot of experience from the Luna, so the Luna hits level 6 very late, and the whole thing starts to kind of crumble, especially against a team that activates so early, as is the case with the Rutgers University draft.
Yeah, speaking of like the early game thing, if you look at the mids, we haven't checked up on their items in a while, but this Dragon Knight is going to be going for a Silver Edge or Shadow Blade first, followed by a Silver Edge, and that's just you know, you want to be early and aggressive before they get their sentries up, before they get a gem, before they get all of that. And Ember is going the classic.
In mid, we are going to see Axe take a lot of negative damage here. Abaddon is trying to dive, but does not have an ult yet. He will deny. Very nice play. It was a good deny, a bad position, but he once again managed to salvage it. That seems to be the name of the game. Meanwhile, Juggernaut does go down bottom. As you mentioned, the Ember diving in there as well. Mid tower may be a casualty here to the Dragon form. We are going to have Abaddon teleport back in and get ready for that push. And Earth Spirit's going in to get ready for the defense. Here we go. Battle Hunger is there, and that's an easy dunk.
Oh, they're
roll
diving
forward.
For more.
Oh, it doesn't quite get the pushback, and they are going to back out at this point.
Yeah, so they're probably going to just deny that mid tower. It's sitting at 47 health. Overall, they didn't kill the Abaddon, but they saved the tower, and they get a kill on Jug bottom. They're not too disappointed with the state of affairs.
Yeah, this is exactly what Weaver kind of wants, though, right? Weaver, as opposed to basically every other hero on this Radiant squad, Weaver is a hero that wants some space, wants a little free farm, and really likes to split push. I think that it was a nice pickup by them because it does give them some split push potential. And he's doing a really good job of utilizing this time and space in order to just try to get up some core items. It also does look like he may be rushing out the Dragon Lance first. So not going for any pure survivability, but kind of going a middle of the road. I think that's pretty common these days.
Yeah, this is kind of the new build on Weaver. You kind of just skip boots, you go for the Dragon Lance, then you go right for a Desolator or some other mid-tier damage item like a Diffusal. And there's the finished Silver Edge, or sorry, Shadow Blade coming out of Dragon Knight, and he has a double damage rune bottle up. They're probably looking to be aggressive here once his ultimate's off cooldown.
Meanwhile, Luna is sitting on top of Brown Boots and a Helm of the Dominator. She is in the bottom 5 heroes in terms of net worth. She's actually, all things said and done, she was outlaned by the Weaver. Not even comparing her to the other team's farming carry, but comparing her to the other team's off lane. And now, with the Shadow Blade up and, a Sentry Ward goes down. They're going to see this. They have Eclipse. This should be a pretty easy kill. Wow.
It was
that
a little
went
bit,
the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. Walking right into the sentry ward. He was scouted out before he even got to that area, and Azul was set it up perfectly. But Luna probably should have ulted first, not really reveal that Dragon Knight has this detection on him, so he can get, you know, the guaranteed beams off. But they did manage to secure it anyway, with all of the beams.
Yeah. I do think the Luna was concerned about being just a little out of range for the Eclipse. The Eclipse range, I think, is just a hair shorter than the Lucid Beam range, if I'm not mistaken. So probably wanted to try and get within that area. 5-5, pretty close game. I would expect a lot more pushing on this bottom tower, to be honest, coming out here from our Radiant side team. And we're going to see another kill on the Juggernaut, potentially. One more auto attack ought to do it. They're not able to get it quite yet.
They went the wrong way.
That was weird. They could see him.
No, he went high ground, and I don't think they caught vision of him. He went high ground and he snuck in between the trees before they managed to chase him uphill.
That's I'm willing to call it. I'm willing to call it. That was a misplay.
I'm saying, yeah, that
probably
was
could have
lucky
fire
from
Remnant up the hill
Very
rather than
lucky.
trying to the next level. Yeah.
So
but either way,
How do you feel about Axe going the Vanguard first rather than playing the Initiator role, since they don't really have another Initiator who wants to jump in and be the center of attention? Ember does jump in, but you don't really want to be the first one in who tanks everything.
Yeah, well, they can push him in, right, with the Earth Spirit, and they can also have the Earth Spirit move in with the Stun Silence combination for activation on those fights.
Oh, look at this, they're pinging out the Invis again on
Yeah.
Dragon Knight, but they didn't have any detection this time around.
That was a little bold. He does have a haste rune, though, so not going to be able to get the kill.
I like the
But
play
he's going to
dodging
be able
the
to
Earth
force him
Spirit
back.
stuff.
Yeah. He's playing pretty well. Like, that death that he had up in the jungle was probably a little hard to shake off for him, but that was not because he was misplaying.
Right.
There was no reason for him to think that there would be a sentry ward right there that happened to be put down right at that moment.
It was just inconvenient timing.
Yeah, but he has been playing very well. They could probably move on to the tier 2 here with this. The Ember Spirit is chipping at the tier 1 tower mid, and they are pinging it. They are willing to move in. They still have Dragon Form for about a quarter of its duration. Blightstone is available, and Omni Slash just came off cooldown, so I'm not sure that there's a lot of defending here until at least one of the cores gets over.
No, they're just gonna split push. They're gonna go for both mid tier 1 and top tier 1. Luna will not finish the tower in time most likely, and there's gonna be defense mounted.
Oh!
Right into an ultimate. Ouch.
Alright, well, I mean, now the ultimate is down, so they can push another tier 2 pretty easily. It looks like they're going to try to close the gap on her. They'll let her go. But, yeah, they could very easily just move into the tier 2 top now, because they know that Eclipse isn't up.
I still think that was the correct play for the RIT team to take mid tower and just counter kill on the teleport defense for top lane. You know, sacrificing a tier 2, there's not much they could have done regardless to defend that, even if they sent 5 heroes.
Yeah, but once again, that comes down to the lack of initiation, right? The Earth Spirit had already taken some damage. There is no blink on the Axe because he did go for Vanguard, as you mentioned.
Soon, though. He's only sitting 500 away. I think that's their timing. They're going to group up and defend a tier 2 once they have that. So they're going to let him fall, get a false sense of security for Rutgers, and then they're going to mount their defense.
And in terms of important towers, this is about the least important tower in the game. So if you're going to give up a tier 2, you pretty much never have to teleport off to that tower in the entire game. If you're going to teleport off to the side of the map late game, you're going to teleport to the shrine 100% of the time. If you're just teleporting to your jungle, you're going to teleport to the shrine, or you're going to teleport to one of the other lanes. And now Roche isn't even on the side, so there's really no point in having that tower.
Right. And Luna just goes bottom. He knows that since the tier 2 is already pushed for his side, that there's really no reason for the enemy team to be there. So he just goes and grabs a free tower while his team smokes up and they're grouping up behind him. They do have the Blink Dagger out on Axe, and they're looking to mount an offensive smoke gank, but they're going to run into absolutely nobody. The entirety of Rutgers is on the top side of the map in their own jungle.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, this top tower is an easy push around for the split push.
Oh.
Juggernaut is getting himself into quite a bit of trouble here, though. He is going to be silenced, and that should be all she wrote for the Spin Master.
And
this is going to be a tier 2 for tier 2 trade, yeah.
Neither team wants to defend. They both want to push, get what they can out of the map. I think this favors RIT because they are behind in towers. They're behind in net worth.
I 100% agree. It's also going to help solidify a couple of items here, right? So that tower just about clenches the Yasha for Luna,
right?
Where she would not have been able to get that up nearly as fast if they didn't make the trade.
They
Whereas I don't think that
there
there are any big items ready to be finished here. I guess that tower might finish the Manta style for Juggernaut. But they're just trying to force them to come back, and Ember's not really targetable here. I'm not sure why that swap was there, but it is an easy trade, and now they are in a position to maybe go high ground.
Right, like their team is kind of at one of their peaks with having Axe as an initiator, the Boots of Travel coming out on Ember Spirit as well as the Veil of Discord makes them have a bunch of damage and mobility. They're in a dominant role in this game now, coming out of a kind of struggled laning phase.
Yeah. This is, I mean, at the end of that engagement, they only managed to chip off a little bit of damage onto that tower, but it is really showing that the tide is turning in favor of RIT. I think maybe RU missed some of their opportunity with that window, and now they're really in a position where they need to get the Manta up on the Juggernaut. It is almost finished, and they need to get some items up on this Weaver. One Dragon Lance is not enough if you're doing a full push build.
Right. Only like 5 minutes ago, Luna was the bottom of the 6 cores in terms of net worth. Now she is number 2, almost going to pass Dragon Knight once she farms up this jungle right here.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
impressive farming speed out of a hero that's, you know, designed to farm well.
yeah, even though it's designed to farm well, it's still very impressive. She is having the Unholy Orb of the Satyr Tormentor give her some sustainability that she otherwise may not have. And that is the Yasha completed on her as well, as soon as the courier brings it out.
Dominating that creep gives her and her entire team in the area aura 14 health regen. That is just absurd for sustaining pushes, sustaining your farm. You don't need lifesteal when you have that.
Right. And she also does have lifesteal, as it turns out. Or no,
No,
wait,
she does
no.
not. Helm of the Dominator
Yeah,
is changed
yeah,
in
it doesn't have the
7.0.
lifesteal. Yeah. As I was saying that, I remembered this is a 7.xx game.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, guys, this is my first 7xx cast, so things are going to be a little wonky some of the time. But fortunately, we have plenty of games under our belt since the change. This isn't like the finals last year where we had to do a patch 2 hours before the actual games.
Yeah, those were disasters. But, you know, you can't schedule around a patch because you don't know when they come.
Well, I know why you think those were the disasters, because Mr. Numbers 2. So Silver's okay. Silver's fine, Zingle. You should be proud. You should be proud of your almost accomplishments.
I am proud of my almost accomplishment.
All right, so as we get through the pause, let's talk a little bit about talent trees, because we are looking at some survivability emphasis coming out here from our Radiant side squad. The strength instead of attack speed coming out from the Dragon Knight. For the Weaver, went for Shikuchi damage, actually, and damage also for the Juggernaut. So all three of those heroes have damage or survivability options, right? That is the archetype for those three specific heroes. Two of them decided to go for damage. One decided to go for survivability. Presumably that means that we're going to see the Dragon Knight really frontline very heavily for this team. What do you think of that overall build and decision?
I think that's a pretty safe assumption to make. You know, the Juggernaut talent, you do know, like, it's a survivability versus damage thing, but it is very often that you see the Juggernauts take the damage option. And same thing for Weaver. Even though you do kind of need that survivability, you'll see most Weavers take the Shikuchi. The real one that's actually a 50-50 toss-up is Dragon Knight, and he did opt for the strength, and looks like he's building a BKB, so I think that's their new strategy. Rather than finishing out that Silver Edge and go for ganks, he's just going to be a frontliner. He's just going to walk straight in and not care if he gets axe called and Luna ulted.
I honestly, I think that's the right call. If they go for the Silver Edge, yeah, in the right situation, they're going to be able to turn off the Moonglaive, which could be pretty big. But other than that, if the game is going well, they're not in a position to find ganks anyway, because their opponents have been corked up into their own base, right? And if the game's not going well, the Silver Edge is just going to cause that Dragon Knight to run out into 3 or 4 and try to trade for picks.
But not only that, not only the canceling the Moonglaives, but it's a 50% damage reduction on all, like, damage output. So if you hit that on the Luna before he ults, or she ults, that's, you know, their entire team fight kind of broken.
Yeah,
That's I
that
think,
is a very good point.
The biggest part of that item that everyone forgets about is the fact that you deal half damage, and it's nothing to laugh at.
Yeah, especially for a hero that is, in terms of team fights, very burst oriented, like the Luna, right? If you're able to get a short period of time of damage reduction on a Luna, it very radically changes the way team fight. It's not like an anti-mage where you get a short period of reduction onto an anti-mage and he'll just blink out of the battle and come back in 6 seconds. She really is forced to get very deep into the fight and relies very heavily on the fight going well from the beginning.
Yeah, Smoke Gang coming out of RIT, they're probably hoping to find a core, but they'll take what they can get. They'll get the Vengeful Spirit and a tier 1 out of that. And a D-Ward.
Yeah. You know, a little D-Ward never hurts. But this could be another tier 2 for tier 2 trade, as the Dragon Knight is coming around here with Dragon form, or the mid lane.
See,
top lane.
I would actually have to say this doesn't favor RIT this time. Last time it did because it was a tier 2 from a tier 2 for behind, but now this is their last tier 2. So this will open up the shrines to be killed, and this will make them lose entire control of that Roshan area.
Yeah, not only the Roshan area, but it's much easier. Actually, a call in here. As we got the Dragon Knight and Dragon Form moving on to the ice, we can't really do the damage. Earth Spirit comes in, drops the ult, dropping a couple stones as well. Luna back now, throws out the glaive, but really not able to get a lot done with it. And you said that trade heavily favored the Radiant, and it is only becoming more obvious as this fight goes on. The damage reduction coming out here from the Dragon Knight as he throws that out. Now he's in trouble. He gets rooted. They chase too far and create a mass grave under the tier 3. That armor ore is also nothing to scoff at. That's also something a lot of players. Wow.
Oh my god, he called
Very
it, but he
close.
canceled the call because he didn't think he caught anybody.
Oh,
If he had went
wow.
through with that, they would have got the Weaver and got the entire wipe, and they see it. Ben just taunting it.
Yeah.
And
But what I was going to say is that armor aura that was added a couple patches ago is also something that a lot of players still forget about. Chasing up into the tier 3 when you don't have the potential to knock down the tower quickly is devastating to a physical damage team relying on a Dragonite, a Weaver, and a Juggernaut. You just can't fight that at this stage. We're only 22 minutes in.
right. Yeah, so that trade, you know, it ended up not even being a trade. They lost to their tier 2 and they didn't even get the tier 2 in return, and then they used the Luna ult and it gets soaked up by Abaddon ulting. It started out extremely poorly, and you know, it could have possibly been the beginning of the end of the game, but
Yeah.
the Ember Spirit came in and cleaned up nicely.
So if we don't chase onto the high ground here, right, for Rutgers, and they could have just fallen back into the Roche pit, taken that relatively easily, then they got a tier 2 for free. They're able to knock down shrines for free. They get a Roche for free, but instead they move a little too far. And bear in mind, even though we're talking about the map control that's about to go the way of Rutgers, overall the game is slightly favoring their opponents.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure who's in the lead anymore, considering how these last few fights have gone, how the tower trades have all gone. Any lead that was made earlier, it's all, you know, comes down to the next fight. Because all the towers drop so fast, you have the pushing lineup from both teams. So any big fight where if you don't have buyback could be the end of, you know, an entire set of racks.
Right. Which is not the end of the game for either one of these teams,
Oh, definitely
right? You've got an Ember Spirit and a Luna on one side with an Axe, nonetheless. You've got a Juggernaut. He didn't go for Battle Fury, but he could always pick up a Maelstrom if he needs it. And, of course, a Dragon Knight as well. And a Weaver, who is also a pretty decent Maelstrom carrier if he needs to. So either one of these teams, honestly, could win, realistically, with 2 lanes of supers. Right. Megas are maybe a river too far, but it's certainly still up in the air. But neither team is really that far ahead.
I think RIT could definitely defend against a full set of Megas, because they have Luna and Ember, 2 of the best like base defense heroes in the game. And yeah, I'm not sure if Rutgers could hold the same. Well, they could maybe hold it, but it would be tough for them to hold and push, like RIT could.
Exactly. RIT should be able to get out of their base regardless of the situation, and that's what's really dangerous here, especially because they are up kills, they are up net worth, very slightly for this stage in the game. But, so now the temptation is, for Rutgers, they really can't choose an engagement because their opponents have Aegis, so they really have to just kind of sit back and farm.
Yeah,
All
meanwhile...
that map control that we were talking about going their way is stripped by that Aegis drop.
Meanwhile, RIT is on the hunt because they have the Aegis, but they find nobody. Oh, both teams are actually on a smoke gank on the hunt. Rutgers is looping around trying to catch somebody off guard.
But the difference is, where Rutgers is going to fail, they're going to have to then go and engage onto... They're going to double down on the smoke.
Wow.
They're actually going to loop around. This is interesting because RIT do have a tower available here to take, and they probably will not expect their opponents to come from the north side. And in fact, Ember Spirit will just go down.
Yep. Doesn't not having his map or his screen on his hero, and he just gets stunned, no dodge, followed by Jug ult. And now, you know, RT is kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. They have nowhere to run.
Uh-oh. They're about to find the hard place, all right. There's a spin coming out onto the Luna. He's trying to hold the Eclipse until after the match community for the Jug. Jug pulling away from it. There's going to be the Eclipse throwing out. The Abaddon soaking up most of it, but a nice stun coming out of the Axe. There's some additional attack damage coming out of the Dragon Knight. The stun does out onto the Earth Spirit. Earth Spirit is taking a fair amount of damage, and the auto attacks there as well. The healing ward is following as the Juggernaut does spin. Meanwhile, on the south side, Luna is going to respawn. There are 3 here waiting for her Axe. Going to jump in with the Blade Mail. Try to save her life, and he will be successful, but he misses the dunk. And now Luna is going to go down on the tail end of that. Not a missed dunk there, maybe a double kill for the Axe, but with the missed dunk, it is a team wipe for only the Weaver. Very nice exchange. And the double smoke all the way around the map strategy ends up working just because it catches RIT so far out of position.
Right, RIT does have wards up. Could have seen that, you know, Rutgers haven't showed on the map in any of the lanes for a good full minute, if not more, because they used a double smoke full duration. But they decided to continue getting that push. They wanted that tower, and they felt confident with the Aegis. Maybe a false sense of security there, but...
Yeah, especially once the Ember went down. There's no reason to not just back out there, right? Regroup.
Yeah, it could have been that they didn't have TPs. I didn't check all of their inventories immediately, but they hesitated a second too long.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they were going out that far without TPs. It's possible, but these are good teams.
Right.
And good teams don't push tier 2s without TPs, at least in the backpack. And they had 8 seconds, right? When the Ember died, they had time to get a TP out of backpack, wait for it to come off cooldown, twiddle their thumbs, and then get back to base perfectly safe.
So if you look at Ember Spirit's items, he's actually almost done with a full Radiance now. He went for the Radiance instead of the Maelstrom. It is one of the 2 common pickups. You know, you often go one or the other just for the sake of damage and wave clear. How do you feel about the Radiance against this team that already has a BKB and spin?
I think the Radiance is the right call. You already have the Glaives for the wave clear, so you don't necessarily need it. It gives him a lot of right-click damage just from the Sacred Relics damage. And when the BKB is not going, the mischance across 4 heavy right-click oriented heroes, Vengeful Spirit, Weaver, Juggernaut, and Dragon Knight, is pretty substantial, right? So Juggernaut is able to right-click through spin, but he's only able to right-click through spin on magic immune targets. So it's really not going to help him that much dealing with the Radiance.
Oh, and for those not familiar quite yet with the 7.0 patch, the Dragon Knight stun is no longer instant, so even though he got it out onto the Ember Spirit there, Ember Spirit managed to dodge it and get away safely.
Okay, a big axe call is going to come out here with the Blade Mail. Luna is going to walk in as well with the ultimate. Abaddon soaking it all up again. Luna Ultimate's not really doing the damage they need to do as the Omni Slash goes out. It does land on the Luna, and now Juggernaut is chasing her down. Meanwhile, the Ember Spirit cleans up the bug on the top side. A spin is going to be there, and that will be enough damage to clean up the Luna, but Juggernaut might be in a bit of trouble himself as a Dragon Knight now chasing on the north side. Blade Mail up on Eradicate. He gives himself as much armor as possible. Only 40 health will end up going down. Meanwhile, on the south side of that fight, the Juggernaut ends up going down as well. No mana, however, for the Ember Spirit, and Dragon Knight is rotating back around invisible and does have enough mana for that stun. Ember Spirit will get away. And so will Dazzle.
That was a hectic fight. That split up into almost 4 different like 1v1s or 1v2 fights.
It's now a 1v2 fight again. Abaddon's already off cooldown though. Ember Spirit waiting for it to come back so that he can try to blow up the Abaddon. He does have the mischance working in his favor, and the burn damage is actually doing quite a bit to this Dragon Knight.
But
under smoke, there's going to be negative armor. The SWAT, for some reason, there's the stun. And that should be enough for a kill. No! The mischance is enough to keep him alive.
Incredible play out of Ember there. He managed to get a Searing Chains off onto the Dragon Knight just out of range of his stun, so he couldn't follow up the Venge swap and stun with his own. So Ember does manage to kind of jump away at the last second.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of clutch plays out of the Ember Spirit so far.
These are definitely high skill players, without a doubt.
Yeah. And as we start to look towards the late game, it becomes difficult to call whose favor this falls in. It really does come down to which team has the better teamwork, because either one of these drafts can go late very effectively. I will say it's probably easier damage-wise for Radiant to go into the late game, but it's probably easier map control-wise for the Dire too.
See, I was actually about to say the opposite. I was going to say Dire is the easier to execute. With Luna, you kind of just get your 6 slot, you stand still, and you become like a roaming tower, roaming like turret. And with Ember Spirit, yes, that's a little bit more high skill, but with your triple Remnant and Veil of Discord combo, you just deal damage by being there. Just jump into the center, and then you deal like 1,000 DPS to everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about Dragon Knight, Vengeful Spirit, Weaver, Juggernaut. Like, these are all very heavy right clicks.
They just,
in terms of sustainable damage.
Right.
I will agree totally that the burst is definitely on the side of the Dire side. So Dire really needs to execute these fights in a way where they're knocking somebody out very early in these fights and then cleaning up on a 5v4. Because if they don't, they've blown their entire load very, very early. And the Radiance is helping the Ember take a lot of map control back as well, and still their shrines are standing despite the fact that we were talking about those being stripped away potentially 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think it was at like mid-20s that they took that tier 2 mid, and the next logical objective, you know, you take out those shrines so they can no longer defend Roshan, then you get Roshan and you go for a smoke gank or something and you push, but they went for the smoke, they went for the kills, it went nicely, but they still haven't got the shrines or the Roshan to follow it up. And those are the next objectives.
A gem is coming out here onto the Dazzle, and I was just about to say how I think that the Vengeful Spirit really needs to pick up a gem so that they can go out, de-ward, put up some choke wards, and take control of their opponent's jungle, knock down those shrines. That's the next step to victory here for the Radiant side. But instead, RIT getting out ahead of the trend there. They now have a gem, so the Dragon Knight's in a pretty vulnerable position, and they're about to try to choke the map out themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that the team with less towers now has the total control of the map, and with that gem, it's just going to increase. So maybe they're just team play, their coordination and sense. It might be one step ahead right now at this stage of the game.
Yeah, and there are no boots of travel as well for across the entire Radiant squad, whereas you're talking about the Ember Spirit who can go globally very, very quickly. So map control is going to start becoming difficult to clinch if RU aren't going to do something about it very soon.
Oh, they fortify to defend the shrine there, and they react to try to get the Weaver dust out, but it's not quite enough.
Weaver's just that fortify seems weird to me because I know you don't want to lose that shrine because Roche is going to be up. Actually, Roche is up, and you need to be able to TP in. But Weaver's just going to rat that out very, very soon. And you can't defend it eternally.
And even if that shrine does die, like they don't have fortify for 5 minutes for their base, so a single.
Oh,
oof, that was a good shackle. The TP will just come out immediately after, no follow-up stun. And Weaver also gets out, so all 5 of them escape. They do poke the tower, or the shrine down to 100 health. There's no reason to deny it, though. Denying it doesn't actually stop any of the money from going their way. It's still 150 gold each, denied or not. So they're going to leave it up. But like you were saying, you know, even if it's up, there's no back door, and Weaver is going to just head over there right now and poke it down. Oh, maybe he won't, but he could.
RIT are finding themselves, that is the dire side, are finding themselves in a really dangerous position where you constantly see these engagements are drawing them this way across the map because that's where their jungle is and that's where Roshan is, where they're defending. They can't get objectives as long as their workflow continues across their jungle inward to outward toward that top lane because they already have that tier 2. What they really need to do is find a way to make the flow go this way so that they end as a group in the mid lane near that Roshan, so that they can smoke up as a group and move out to get something done.
Right.
Consistently, we're seeing them flow the wrong direction. It's very difficult to not be forced that way when the Weaver is going to naturally run to the northwest, and you also have the Juggernaut constantly pushing out that top lane.
So with these new tier 4 items coming up for Rutgers, is that their time to try to push, finish off those shrines, go for Roche, and end out the game? There is a Satanic up on Dragon Knight. There's a Scotty already built quite a while ago on Jug, but he followed up with a damage item now as well with the Diffusal, so he actually does quite a bit of damage. And Weaver finishing a full Manta, going for MKB next. Is that just their next timing once they get these items, or?
Weaver's going to rat out this shrine first, and as we see what probably won't be a fight, Weaver does use the Manta illusions. He's going to knock down the shrine. There's nothing that can be done here. That's why that glyph seems so odd. And now is the time to Roche, because if there's going to be defense on this Roche, it has to come by smoke and walk. Very ineffective, and also leaves you very vulnerable to something like a Venge swap.
I really liked the reaction out of Dragon Knight there. When he got called, I'm pretty sure he activated his Satanic instantly, so even if he was hitting a Blade Mail and spins, he was just sitting at full health after that initiation.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and
smoking.
Smoking into the Aegis, though, and he will also miss out on the Weaver, who is just chewing him alive. Axe is sitting on top of the gem. Weaver's going to go ahead and use the illusions, throw him out. Juggernaut does get a nice Omni Slash onto illusions, though. Eradicate throws out the Blade Mail, but is just being chewed apart by this negative armor coming out of the Weaver. Weaver doing enough damage, really, to force him back. He doesn't have any mana left either, thanks to the Diffusal Blade. That's going to be the Aegis spot, but Dragon Knight is sitting here. The Self-Grave. No, the Grave on the Ember Spirit, excuse me, as we have the BKB coming out on the Dragon Knight. He's throwing out the auto attacks onto the Eradicate. Eradicate is going to go down. He does not have a way out. No! they're going to turn their attention on to Luna, who gets saved by the cloak. And they're all going to get out.
Incredible.
Wow, all 3 of those are going to get out.
They got Aegis and Jug again, but they're just gonna go for a push immediately after.
Yeah, the Shrine is going to get back into fighting shape, so Jason Pan is sitting up here 10 seconds till he has that Satanic up, and that means that the Blade Mail is going to chew through him pretty effectively here. Not effectively enough, maybe it is! The Grave comes out, the heal's going to be there as well. Another Shrine is going to be used, and Jason Pan just does not care. He goes in more. The negative armor coming out from the bugs, but the Dragonite is going to go down. This is way too far for this squad that lost their Juggernaut early in that fight.
If he still had his ultimate, maybe he could have healed up from Satanic, but since he has to go melee form and walk into a Luna with a Butterfly and he doesn't have any true strike, like that's a tough ask for him to be able to survive even with a Satanic up.
Yeah, you could hear my confusion in that fight when I started calling it, because Juggernaut's ultimate, I wasn't looking at that area, I heard it, started calling it, moved over, and it was just illusions.
Yep.
He just cleared illusions with it. That is a tremendous waste of value.
Luna manted and then just kind of ran away. And the bounces
no
were
RNG.
Lucky. Nope.
Yeah.
Ooh, call onto Weaver.
And that's another death.
They're just hemorrhaging kills on the side of Rutgers. Chasing a little bit too far, or...
We said before that there's a lot of sustainable damage that comes out for Rutgers, but along with that sustainable damage comes the requirement of really good teamwork and discipline. Sustainable damage doesn't give you the option to just burst people down and make mistakes like that. When you make a mistake, it gets drawn out in these really protracted chases that are really hurting Rutgers. They need a lot more discipline if they're going to run a draft like this.
And now RIT is just pushing. Even though Dragonite's about to spawn, it's still a 5 versus 3, and they want to at least bait a buyback, and if there's no buyback, they might just look to get a Rax out of this.
I think they're going to look to get a Rax anyway. They have everything except Eclipse up, and the Luna Illusions just chew through this.
Yeah, it's still no Monkey King bar on any of the side of Radiant. So even if they want to fight her, her health is effectively 35% higher because there's 35% evasion. Or more than that,
it'd be the 17 from the Radiance when Ember's around, right?
Yeah, I think the math actually works out to like 50% more effective health. With
well, as we try to do math, everything goes wrong for Radiant. Yeah, it does come out with a little bit less than 50% EHP. Right. I think it comes out like 42 or something like that. But even so, that's pretty good. Dragonite will get called here. There's going to be a nice roll-in as well. A buyback is going to come out. The BKB is up on Jason Pan, and he needs to get some kills here. They need to counter-push mid right now, but they're just not able to make it happen. Weaver trying to teleport in is going to Shikuchi out, but into the Radiance burn. Can't really chase too far.
That's a perfect fight out of RIT there. They get the racks, they get buybacks used, they get perfect calls out of Axe to set it all up, and then they're not even fully leaving. They want to get more, possibly. They're going to get the Shrine, pinging that out, and Roshan is still a ways away. They just died in that last fight for Rutgers, but I don't think they need it. They just showed that they didn't. They pushed without.
Yeah, honestly, if you're Rutgers, you're starting to think about Hail Marys at this point. Luna's getting very big. As you had mentioned in the draft, once she starts to approach this, like, 6-slotted stage, as long as she holds buyback, which I hope she will.
She has 7,000 gold. I don't see how she spends that without holding buyback, unless she buys, like, a rapier, but that's asking.
She's going for a Shivas, I think. Or, excuse me, a Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty.
So
I wouldn't mind seeing a BKB, but actually...
Jug's going to go down here. Whoa, the swap save! No, he still ends up going down. All right. Swap save buys
Luna dies too, though.
Luna is going to go down, but she has buyback, and Jug does not. Here we go. Ember Spirit's just going to burst the hell out of this team as Abaddon is trying to get away, and Ember's still at full health. There's going to be the Blade Mail coming out here, and the call. Another stun going out. There's going to be dunk number 1. Abaddon's ult has already been used, and it is just a matter of time before he gets axed down. 1 stun, 2 stun, red stun, blue stun. He is going all the way back to the fountain.
So here, Luna's going to buy back and get bots? No, she actually finished off for Scotty. Interesting that she didn't go for bots.
Interesting.
Well, right here, oh, they're going to call it anyway. The buyback spooked them into thinking that she was going to get bots and end the game. And even if not...
Well, they don't have any buybacks in 70 seconds without the Weaver, who is really probably their most important hero for these fights. Yeah, that one very heavily in favor of RIT, with just a couple of over-aggressive maneuvers coming out of their opponents. So, I think if you are Rutgers, you're thinking game number 2, show discipline. Discipline is the number 1 missing trait from teams that we see playing here in CSL, and I really hope that they kind of get together and make sure that they're not charging too far ahead.
Oh yeah, that was a very back and forth game due to the discipline of both teams, or lack thereof, I should say.
All right, so we are going to be going into game number 2 after a couple of words from our sponsors. We appreciate you guys coming in and supporting the CSL, and we will be right back with game 2 of this best of 3 series. Stick around.
Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. But let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.